Okay. Go ahead and mic check real quick.
Mic check, 1, 2. Does that work? That's 1, 2.
Perfect.
That works. Okay,
Good.
we're good. Good to roll.
All right. So we're going to get right into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Undergo Jayskode. My name is Juan Carlos. And today I have a very special guest that I've been wanting to get on the podcast for, I want to say, over a year when I first reached out to him. Just because I knew how much value this guy could bring in.
Okay, well,
let's go ahead and
JC, appreciate you having me on the show. I know that we're episode 15. Episode 15. So I'm excited to be here and excited to see if I can maybe share some value, some insight as far as my background, but then be able to learn something from you and your podcast as well. So excited to be here as well. Thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, so let's get right into it.
Let's dive into it.
So you're in the mortgage industry.
Yes.
Real estate.
Real estate. Yep.
When or how did you get into it?
That's a good question. So before I got into the mortgage industry, I had 2 restaurants. My wife and I, we started at a very early age. And since I was self-employed, I really had an interest in wanting to purchase my own property. And I know that when you're self-employed, there's certain things that you have to do on your taxes because you have a profit and loss statement. So you need to be able to have the right amount of income in order to qualify for a certain amount of mortgage, certain loan amount. So I needed to have an understanding of what I was going to get myself into, what the banks were looking for in order to be able to structure everything correctly for my taxes and how much to build up that business in revenue and my total net profit in order to be where I wanted to be. So that's what got me into the mortgage industry. I figured, okay, if I have a better understanding of what the banks are looking for, then I'll have a better understanding of how much revenue my business needs to generate, how much I need to build up that business, how profitable does my business have to be in order to eventually one day be able to qualify for a home. So taking that approach, I guess I could have just reached out to the loan officer, and loan officer could have told me like, hey, this is what you need to do in order to qualify for this amount. But I had an interest in the industry in itself as well. So I just figured, okay, I'm going to go for my license to be a loan officer. One of the things was I told one of my friends, I said, hey, look, you get your license, I'll get my license. When I get my license, I'll be the first one to do a loan for your home, right? And when you get your license, you're going to be the first one to do a loan for my house, right? Because we'd be fairly new into the business, so who's going to want to do the loan for you or trust you with the business to do that? So I actually moved forward with it and eventually ended up getting my license. So I got the license, but I never moved forward with actually doing the full transition into the mortgage industry. Basically just had my license, it was active, but I stayed with my 2 restaurants because during that period of time, the restaurants were expanding, we're doing really great. So that's what ultimately got me interested into the mortgage industry. Not necessarily the real estate agent side of things, because I've always had an interest of like, okay, when you want to get something done, you need to know exactly, kind of going to the source exactly what it's going to need or require for you to get there. And that was what sparked my interest in going into the mortgage side rather than the real estate side of things.
I see. And so the restaurants, that's where you first started, that's where you started working at?
Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
So I'd probably have to go a little bit further back, but I started working when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
14 years old. And I was fortunate enough to start working for a local franchisee. It was Domino's Pizza.
Really?
Very popular family here in the community of Ventura County and Santa Barbara County, and have expanded over throughout the states. And when I was a kid, I got to work directly with the franchise owner. So from 14 all the way to 18, I had a very close relationship with them. And my ideal or goal was that I was going to eventually franchise and have my own unit one day, right?
Wow. How does someone at that age have a relationship with a franchise owner?
Well, they were small at the time. Well, not super small, but they were very involved with their business.
But why you was what I'm saying. A 14-year-old.
Yeah, you work, and you through your work, it shows your talent and your dedication into your business, and how serious you take things.
So the guy kind of already knew what sort of
we kind of spot talent maybe at some point in time, right? It's just like when you're if you have your business, you have multiple employees, but there's that one that kind of somewhat one way stands out. I'd say I probably was one of them. I was dedicated. I was always working, hardworking, late hours, and always open to being there. Plus, I love making money. So, I was young. I didn't. I always say that my sport. I didn't get to play any sports when I was a kid, but my sport was business. Is yeah, yes, it was just a job, but I had bigger idea of something bigger in mind to do.
That's crazy.
So, it started there. That's where it transitioned into the two restaurants. But I started there working at 14 years old. I had in mind that I was gonna eventually maybe own my own franchise. The franchisee that was mentoring me at the time, they went from being just local to being the third largest franchisee for that particular company in the entire nation, not just state of California, not just a certain region. It was for the entire state of California, so for the entire United States.
Right.
So when you think of the scale and the having access to the quality of their leadership and mentoring, I think it allowed me to transition from there to eventually going out and doing my own thing
I see.
by the time I was 18. So when I was 18, I was still with the company, but then by the age of 19, I found this opportunity to be able to start my own business. I had been saving up because I had in mind that I was going to do a franchise, but didn't necessarily materialize until I realized how expensive it was going to be to go into the franchising side. You got to have I think it was like $250,000 liquid, and crazy amount of things that these requirements that you would have in order to be franchise, to be able to start your own franchise from Domino's Pizza.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have to be loaded to
open up your own.
yeah, and then considering like you're just the new guy, there's other franchisees or maybe somebody else who's been in business for a lot longer, so then they're selective as well as to who they're going to give these units to, and sometimes it wasn't just one unit, they're selling them in packages, so it's not like you just go in there and start your own business. So very soon I realized, what, that's probably not going to be the route for me. So I found this opportunity. It was unique. It's in the heart of Oxnard, 5th and C Street. Started the business there. It was an existing pizza shop, and they ended up purchasing it from them. Had a very good price, and this was in 2012, so the economy was not doing crazy good. We're still recovering from the mortgage meltdown that started taking place 08, 9, 10, 11, 12. During that time, the economy was still pretty rough. So it was working, kind of building its way up from there, right? So in 2012, had the unique opportunity to be able to purchase that location, which was a restaurant, pizza already structured that way. And I just started there. I thought I knew what I was doing because I had been in the business for so long,
right,
that I thought I knew what I was getting myself into. But it was completely different. What I was doing before was just kind of operating the business, right? The day-to-day business. When I got into the business as an actual business owner, it was completely different. It was like I didn't take into account, you had things like marketing, branding, I had an understanding already of costs, fixed costs, variable costs in the business, because you had to take that into account when you're working for the other units or the other businesses. But I didn't have the whole thing put together. I thought it was just kind of set up shop and things were just going to start magically working themselves out. But I found out within the first year that it was a lot tougher than that.
How old were you?
19 years old. 19 years old. My wife was 18, and we started the business together at the time.
And your wife, she was all in with you?
Yeah. She's always been all in with crazy ideas that I have. Sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't work out.
And the risk, how much risk were you in?
Well, it was at the time the unit sold for $35,000.
Okay.
So, and I was 19 years old. It was a good amount of money. It was a pretty good amount of money. And we were so young that when we tried to buy the business, the landlord had to sign off on transferring the lease to me and my wife. There was a previous business owner, and he had the lease already there structured, and the other business owner already had an established business in a different city. So he had some good reputation, and so that made it very easy for the landlord to say, okay, you know what, we're gonna go in that direction. But when my wife went in to try to buy the business, the landlord almost kept us from buying the business, because he's like, hey, we had sent out an email, an introduction. I'd say we're pretty at that time I was pretty developed as a person, as a young adult, to take the initiative, reach out to the landlord, let them know, just give them a background what the business plan was to get into the business. And we had to send in our IDs so he could get the lease agreement put together. And he emailed us back. He's like, somebody better check those IDs because I think it says 91 and 90 on those IDs. So we're little kids then at the time still, but again, I had great mentorship when I was in the other business.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Someone at 19. See, when I was 19,
Yeah,
no clue whatsoever what a loan was.
Yeah.
What a APR was, what interest rates. No idea.
yeah,
I talk about this story a lot when I first turned 19. I always talk about it for some reason.
mm-hmm.
I think it's a good example where I wanted my dream car.
Mm-hmm.
I was working. Where was I working at? The point is that I took out a car, my Mercedes that I used to have.
Sweet. It's a nice ride.
Sweet, yeah, sweet, but then sour.
It's a sweet ride.
But check it out. I didn't understand what interest rates were.
Yeah.
So when after I had already sold the car, I found out that I was paying like 30% of interest,
Oh shoot.
which
Yeah.
is bad, right?
Yeah.
Bad, and I didn't realize that until I was already like making plenty of payments on the car. I had to change the car because my girl and we were expecting a boy.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
so,
little baby.
Yeah, I appreciate it. He's turning
How old is the baby now?
he's turning 3 on the 4th.
3. Okay. Nice.
This month.
It's a good time. Kids are a blessing.
Yeah, yeah. And he's a crazy kid right now. He's
A lot of energy,
insane.
right?
Yeah. Man, it's insane. He definitely changed my life.
Yeah, kids will, and yeah, they'll definitely light a spark and make you'll wake up and realize, okay, shoot, I got to get certain things straight in life because I want to be able to give them a good quality life.
Going back to the example I was giving, I didn't understand at 19. I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand how to handle my finances.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, maybe because there was no mentor around. My dad, he knew very little. I'm not gonna say he knew all like how to manage his finances, but no, unfortunately, 2017, he had to go bankrupt. He lost our home, renting now. It's unfortunate, but it's what happens when you're uneducated and you don't know what or how to handle your finances. So
Yeah.
this is why I bring someone like Emilio to teach us a little bit more about real estate.
Just having real estate. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I think we've kind of gone into that age where we have a lot more information accessible to us. You shared the background of your parents having to go bankrupt and end up losing their home. My mother had to go through the same thing. But I think a huge population, a huge amount of families, were impacted negatively by that. And unfortunately, it was just one of the things where there wasn't enough information available at the time. And now how much the internet has changed. Now you can Google, search, TikTok, and all kinds of different crazy shit comes up. And, it's valuable information. I know sometimes you spend a good amount of time scrolling. You're like, some of that is, just trash. But then you're going to come across certain things that are going to be very valuable and provide education to the next consumer, the next person purchasing.
That's one of the questions I had. So you're for like financial advice that you see on TikTok. You're for all that, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't watch. I have a TikTok, but I never use it.
Are you scared of it?
No, I just, between one too many platforms, I think, when you have the business or you have your branding that you have to do, and I know most would say, well, you want to have an audience all across everywhere, but I don't have like a media team or anything like that. And it's just me to manage my post and engage and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I only stick to one. It's been the one that's worked the most for me. And it's probably because it's more geared towards my age group. But, I had Facebook. I never used Facebook. It's overwhelming. The way I think of it is, Facebook is like if I have a PC, and then Instagram might be like a Mac, right? It's like a lot more clean, a lot more simple, but very user friendly. TikTok, it's that next generation, and I'm not a huge fan of it. But the content that you will find on social media, sometimes it's going to be mixed. Sometimes it's just a bunch of BS. They're just trying to throw the hook out there, trying to reel people in. And then other times there'll be some genuine information. Usually the things that are genuine and that are actually value, it is not going to get as much traction as all of the other BS that's put out there. I mean, it's kind of done intentionally. They try to hook as many things and trying to get you engaged and active with it. So I'll see a lot of posts within my industry that are not necessarily complete. They just kind of leave it halfway, and I understand that the catch is to be able to get people to engage with you.
Right.
But it can be very misleading, because then I have families that end up in the office, or clients, and they're like, hey, well, we seen this. Well, like, well, you know, it says that like, for example, there's an advertisement, or someone was posting that there's a 1% down payment requirement on the purchase of a home. And the program didn't give the rest of the specifics on the detail for the program. So it was you only had to do 1% down, and then the bank would cover the other 2%. So it's a total of 3% that's being put down on the purchase of the home. But the assistance from the bank cannot exceed $4,000. So that means that the house could not exceed the sales price of $200,000. But all of California was going crazy. There's like, oh, there's a 1% down payment assistance program. I was like, well, where in California can you buy a property for $200,000? And so, not even Bakersfield, you can't. No, I don't think you can. Maybe not. I mean, probably can. But then again, it's like, you know, it's spread like wildfire.
Right.
You know, 1% down is like, well, here in Ventura County, you're never going to be able to use that program. But it's, you know, a lot of the things that you find on social media are not going to be valuable or helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully that answers it.
No, it does.
And I'm sure a lot of people know it.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they do, right?
Yeah.
I tell my girl this all the time, because she tries to, I catch her sometimes falling into that, you know, where she sees something on TikTok or whatever social media she's on.
Mm-hmm.
And she shows me, and I tell her all the time, just take it with a grain of salt. You know, and it's not just financial advice. It's just like people talking about their conspiracies or whatever it is. I tell her, just take it with a grain of salt. You don't know who that guy is. You don't know if that guy is actually a doctor. You know, she likes to watch a lot of health things.
Yeah.
So you really don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Until you do your research. So I tell her all the time, before you tell me anything, just do your research on the guy, the lady, whoever you're looking at, and make sure she's qualified. You gotta fact check everything and everyone. You gotta filter out all that BS. But it's hard because there's just so much content. You don't know who's really telling the truth and who's not. Yeah. Like, you don't know right from wrong. It gets overwhelming. It is. It's overwhelming. And I think that's why I just decided to just stick to one platform and I mean, it's really good for business. Social media is really good for business. I mean, you and I are connecting here today through social media, and I would have probably never connected with you. You're a great guy, I can tell. Just had a brief conversation with you earlier, and I see your drive and why you want to do things. But social media is great for business. I've been able to connect with a lot of business partners, a lot of clients, and I've also been able to learn a lot of things to become, you know, position my business a little bit better. Okay, so going back to when you started the restaurants. Yeah. So how long were you in that industry for? 5 years. 5 years. But considering, so from 14 to 19 to 24, 25 was that period of time when I had the business. Okay. I ended up what got me into the mortgage industry was I wanted to get my license to be able to purchase my home. So I started doing my research 2 years before I actually bought my house. So at the age of 24 was when I first purchased a house with my wife. But it took me about 2 years of planning to be able to get to where I wanted to be financially, to be able to afford the home that I ideally had in mind at the time. In order to be able to make it happen. So by the age of 24, my wife was 23. Right. We had, you know, by that point, we had our businesses and we had bought our home. You were licensed? I had my license, but I wasn't active because, remember, I was still with my business and business was doing really well. So I wanted to continue taking advantage of that. It took me away from distraction and wanting to do other things. I see.
one of the reasons that I decided to transition out of the business from, it was the restaurant industry, right? You have the restaurants. So one of the reasons that I decided to get out of there was because I got to a point where I felt like I was working for the business instead of the business working for me. And I did the numbers, and I can't necessarily complain because I was able to accomplish a lot of great things from that period of time when I was 19 to 25. I did a lot of great things. I got to do, I got to travel. I got to be able to, buy myself a nice luxury car. I had the ability to buy my home at a freaking young age, right? But I was working day and night. It was like 7 days out of the week. It was like from 10 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m., 7 days out of the week. And I did that for all that period of time. So when I was 19, my son was born at the same time. So my son was born. We had just had our baby. We started the business. And for all of those years during my child being, a baby, I was spending work day and night. I mean, the money was coming in. It was great, right? I was just burned out from being there day and night. That's what the restaurant business is. Restaurants, you can make some serious money off of it, but you're going to be there day and night. Somebody calls out, you got to go in and fill in. Something breaks at the restaurant, you got to go check it out. If the equipment fails and you're out on vacation, you either got to go in and you fix it, or you got to call someone to go in there and fix it. And if you're out on vacation and something breaks down, it's not a good call that you're gonna get like, hey, sir, this happened, and now you got to call in a technician to go out there and fix that. So that kind of spoils the vacation. You're like, shit, all this is happening, and we're out here trying to have a good time. But my transition out of the restaurant business was, I just had been doing it since I was 14 years old, and it was pretty much everything that I knew at the time. So from that age, I've spent about 10 years within that industry, and that's when I said,
sorry,
yeah, we got to max out here.
Every 30 minutes.
That's okay, bro. How we doing? Flowing? We're doing good? We're doing good? Okay.
For it to be your first time?
I don't know, bro. Like I said, it's been an interesting couple of years. It was like 15, 16 years back, 17 years of just nonstop grind.
I could tell, dude. So, you're like,
I'm not BSing you. It's like all, it's a real shit that we've experienced along the way.
Yeah. So what made you get into the mortgage industry, real estate? Is it because you wanted to learn more, or is it because somebody kind of influenced you to do it?
It was both. It was definitely both. So one, I had already been in that industry. The restaurant industry was been there for like 10 years, right. And I was pretty much sick and tired of it already. I made my money. I kind of accomplished what I wanted to. I didn't see the business growing anymore or at a faster pace that I would have liked it to. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, I got carried away. You have social media, so you're able to start, seeing things and come in contact with people. And that point already had my license, but navigating through social media, I ended up coming in contact with now my boss mentor. And the same way that you and I connected was the same way that I was able to connect with him. I was actually on, I guess that's also why I'm here. You never know where life is going to take you, right? Yeah. But I ended up firing away a DM to my boss mentor. It's probably one of the best here in Ventura County. Right. So I sent him a message. I was like, hey, I just... I have my license. I've reached out to a couple of places.
Can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
Okay, you said something really important, and I want you to explain why.
Yeah.
You said he was the best in the business.
Is
the best in the business.
Would probably still is. Yeah.
Okay, why is he the best in the business? What sort of qualities?
We could definitely get into that.
Just get it. Yeah. I want to share it because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Why did you think at that time, and is still one of the best in the business?
So I didn't actually know who exactly he was, and this is Silverio Garcia is my the branch owner and mentor, but I didn't know who he was. I just came across his contact social media. I was like, shoot, man, this guy is active, helping out families and everything. So great content on social media. So that's why I decided to reach out to him. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, I had reached out to, without being in contact on social media, but prior to that, I had reached out to a couple of different branches where they have mortgage. It's a mortgage business, right? I had reached out to a few places and nobody got back to me. Mm. So I was like, man, I have my license. I was like, and I would tell everyone, I was like, hey, I have no interest in like, I just want to learn business. Like having my background, I know what it takes to build from the ground up, right? So I wasn't really expecting anything or anyone to take care of me, or I just needed to know the inside of the business. Even though you have your license, it doesn't really mean much because once you actually get into the business, it's completely different.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like, I guess you could study to get your license for a certain thing, but once you actually get in the field, it's like, oh shoot, it's completely different. But I'd reached out to him, and I was lucky enough that he reached back out to me and agreed to be able to schedule an appointment with me to interview me. So we scheduled that appointment, and I can say that I was very fortunate because I believe that if I would have ended up anywhere else, I probably wouldn't have been or have done as successful as I've been doing over the last couple of years within the industry. In any business, it's tough. Any business is tough, but again, having the right mentorship, just like when I had the restaurants, having the right mentorship is going to make a big difference, big impact on your success. So I was thinking to myself, and I always think to myself, I was like, I reached out to so many different places, and all of them could say, yeah, come on over, but maybe I wouldn't have had the same mentorship. And after maybe about 12 months, I would have tapped out and said, okay, this isn't for me. I'm ready to go somewhere else. Right. And I wouldn't have found the success that I found in the business hadn't it been for me being able to get in contact with this one particular person, and have them guide me from beginning, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, branding, how to be professional in the business, how to engage with people, how to be respectful to other people, and just having a complete understanding of the business. So without having that mentorship, I do genuinely believe that would have probably couple of months, maybe 12. I said when I went into the business, I said, you know what, I'm going to give myself about 12 months, see where that goes, and if it's not working out, then I'll just have to figure something else out. And so I give myself that period of time, but I was very fortunate because he did. I remember he's like, hey, I'm not going to let you fail. That's one of the things. I was already like 9 months in. I was like, man, this is tough. This business is freaking tough. And even today, and any other year, it's freaking tough business. But I do remember on like my 9th month in, I was like, man, I don't know if this is gonna work out for me. And I do remember he's like, hey, I'm not gonna let you fail. We're gonna, you're gonna do great. And I've had great mentorship from him, from business to personal life. It's been a great mentor to me. So having that one person to be able to guide you has definitely helped out.
So someone starting off, you mentioned, in order to be successful in this business, mentor, experience.
Yeah, well, the mentor is going to have tremendous experience if you have the right mentor, right? Right.
Experience. Yeah. What sort of other things can someone have or develop to succeed in this sort of business? It could be network.
But I think you also have to have an understanding of a little bit of business background,
Okay.
Because you can get your license. It's the easiest thing to do. You get your license. Okay, so then what's next? Then you have to realize that you have to develop a business from there. You have to build a brand. So it's not just about like getting your license, say, hey, I do mortgages, or getting a real estate license, say, hey, I do real estate. You have to build a brand. You have to have a budget. You have to market yourself. You have to invest in the business. And a lot of people that start into the business start with, I got my license. Let me help you buy a house, right? And it's like, you have to build a brand. You have to understand that businesses have cycles when things are good, things are down, things are good, things are down. And so if you don't understand that, when you go into the business and things are really tough, like I said, I give myself about 12 months, and you could and I was there like my entire 12 months. The first year, I didn't really have any business. It was really tough. You're coming into the business. There's everybody else who's like extremely professional. Yeah. You have so many different options. Why would they go to this one particular person that's new? And most people tell you got to go to your friends and family first to start building that business, so then people trust you and whatnot. But my age group wasn't then at the time in the unique situation to start purchasing or taking it serious to buy a home. So I didn't have that. So my first our first ever transaction came from I was actually working at the swap meet. We had a little stand, and you can advertise there at the swap meet right there in
Here in
Ventura,
Oxnard, right?
in Ventura,
Oh, Ventura.
in Ventura, and passing out flyers and whatnot. So that's where the first transaction came from. So the ideal, most people tell you the first transaction might come from friends or family, and it wasn't necessarily the case for me. It was a complete stranger, and was able to help them. They got their property. It was a great investment that they've done, but started building it up from there. But those first 12 months are very crucial, because many people will either quit their job and assume that this is going to be making a lot of money, because the checks are very decent, but it's about making that consistently.
Yeah.
And so ideally, majority of the people that get into the business after 6 to 12 months end up quitting, and that tends to be the case.
So how does someone prepare for 6 to 12 months?
Well, you would think of it just like any other business. So even if it wasn't real estate, any kind of business, a podcast, any kind of business that you get into, you have to set up a business plan, right? And from that business plan, you got to have your budget, and you got to know, how much you want to be making, what is it going to take to grow the business. You do, strength and weakness analysis to be able to see what are your strengths, how can you improve, how can you tap into this market, and then you look at your competition. You're like, okay, they do this and that, but they're not doing this, right? So where can you start driving a wedge in between there and start getting your name out there in your business to be able to generate business? But being prepared financially is probably one of the most important things that you can do. If you think about majority of the businesses that fail, is because they're undercapitalized. So even though it's just a license that you have for your mortgage, real estate or in the mortgage industry, you don't get a compensation package starting out. It's like you either got to produce, and if you're not producing, then you're not going to get compensated. So if you're into this 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, but you have liabilities like a mortgage, you got to pay your bills and all that other good stuff. Right. And if you don't have a supporting partner, this doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to have a partner to get started, right? But I was fortunate that I had the right capital structure to get into the business. I had the right mentorship, and then I had a partner, or I have my partner, that's supported through the beginning of the business, when good times, bad times. So we've seen it just about everything. So
that's great. How long have you been in the industry for?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 years. And what are sort of the important things that you think you've learned as far as those 6 years?
Something that I know because of my previous history in business is that businesses have cycles. There's good times and there's bad times, and you also have to be prepared for the bad times. And if you're not structured properly, and I'm speaking of where the industry is today, the rates have gone up nearly double what they were over the last 12 months. So the volume has been reduced significantly. But you need to be able to see that, that there's peaks and then there's drops. And if you're not structured properly for that, then you get washed out of the business.
I see.
And if you look at, how some of the top producers, the people that have been in the business for a long time, is you got to learn how to navigate those cycles in business. So that's kind of like the long-term thing, right?
Okay.
So understanding how to navigate good times and bad times is really important. One of the things is just being genuine in the business. There's times when I have meet with the clients, and I don't like doing pressure sell on anyone. And that's why it's really important to maintain your obligations at home, discipline, and be disciplined with them, because I've sat down with clients on a 6 p.m., 7 p.m. evening, and they have all of their financials. They're ready to move forward with the purchase of their home, but they're not necessarily ready to make the commitment to be able to buy a house. So they're like, hey, everything looks good. We looked at the financials. Everything's great. But they're like, we'd love some more time to then dive into purchasing a home. So I've had appointments like that where I meet the client, and then it's not until like a year or 18 months later when then they're like, okay, now we're ready to move forward. And that's how I enjoy and like taking care of the families.
But there are those that do pressure sales, right? It's not. That's just your way of doing it.
I would say some, yes. It's
But
like
it's not common?
50-50. Well, it can be. And I guess maybe that's why people hesitate to reach out to us in the industry. They're like, oh, if I reach out to them and I make the appointment, they're going to try to close me there,
Yeah,
right? It's like
that's
when you go buy a car, you end up at the dealer, you don't want to go because they're going to try to close you right then and there, right? So I'll say like, oh, you're not a closer. I was like, well, I just, you got to understand that when people are ready, they'll be ready. And that's when they're going to make their purchase. But if you make them feel uncomfortable when they come into the office and you try to pressure them into something, then things might not work out the way they need to work out. And I don't want to be putting anyone in that situation.
And it's a big deal because I mean, you're trying to buy a home.
Yeah. It's a large commitment. I'd say half of the families that reach out and schedule their appointment, they're ready to go and their financials are good, so they're able to move forward and comfortably. And then the other half is just really kind of setting up that roadmap to then eventually be able to purchase. And I've had clients where I sit down with them, I'll sit down with them, and then 2 years later is when they finally hit me up. They're like, hey, you know what? Now we're ready to move forward with our purchase of the home. Whatever unique something happened, that was the right time for them to make it happen. They reach out to me, they brought all of their documents and decided to move forward. Maybe they would have, if I would have pressured them to 2 years ago, they would have done something. But, you got to give people time. Sometimes there's different things going on in life. So just because all the financials are ready to go doesn't mean that you're 100% ready to move forward or to have that commitment to be able to buy a house. So I genuinely respect the clients when they come into the office. And even though everything looks great, I'm like, you'll buy when you're ready to buy. There's, I can't tell you time's the right time.
Okay. Perfect. I want to get into so I want to get into how this is a little bit new. This is the first time I tried this structure.
Let's jump into it.
So check it out. I got
episode 15.
Episode 15. So episode 15. Look, check it out. Just because I want to keep the podcast flowing really good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do facts. I'm gonna hit you with a couple topics.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna hit you with the facts.
Okay.
You could correct me because this is your industry. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and then after that, I'm gonna just a few questions. I don't want to.
Okay, sounds good.
I better know
my stuff then, right?
No. This is to educate. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to like pick you.
Keep him on edge. Make sure he's good.
No, it's not like that.
I'm pretty confident about the industry. My knowledge.
Okay, check it out. So, two topics I want to get into: California business ranking.
Okay.
50 out of 50 states. California is 50 out of 50 states. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other topic I wanted to get into was the what rates look like today,
mm-hmm.
and how can someone start their process.
Yeah, of course.
Simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the first one. I came across this article, which is crazy. This article was on. I have the article here. I believe it was CNBC.
Okay, we're gonna put the link for that in the bottom, guys, to fact check.
All the sources are gonna be in the link. Check it out.
Just so I see what you guys.
This one is from. Oh, this is from CEO or chiefexecutive.net, I believe.
Okay.
Chiefexecutive.net. Yes, chiefexecutive.net. You could find that 50 out of 50. So California is ranked 50 out of 50 states in business rankings. I read that, let's see, that the concerns that were taxes, high taxes, regulations, strict regulations, and cost of living. So what I did was I asked myself, okay, so if they're saying the cost of living is expensive, did a little bit of research on that. I went into the strict regulations, and I also went into the high taxes.
Yep.
And according to my research that you can find on taxfoundation.org, it says here for corporate tax rate, you might know about this.
Okay.
It's 8.84.
Okay.
And then I researched cost of living here in Ventura County.
Yeah.
According to livingwage.mit.edu, it's $80K for assuming 2 adults, both working, with 1 child. I have a chart here I can show you.
Yeah.
Average rent $2.7K.
Yeah.
So my question is to you is, what's a common concern that you receive from clients in the market of purchasing a home? Um, you know, that is it more so they tell you, oh, when do you think the interest rates will go down, or
Yeah.
what are some of the responses that you get?
What are some of the responses? And that would be diving into the interest rate portion. But if we're going to circle back to the 50 out of 50, right?
Yeah,
Because we're ranked 50 out of 50.
We're gonna circle back to that.
Okay. So should we dive into the 50 out of 50 and then go into what are some of the concerns that the clients might have?
Okay, no, yeah, let's do the 50 out of 50 states.
Okay, 50 out of 50 states
Which is insane, right?
in business.
And I'm not even lying to you. Here, check it out. It says here.
Let's take a
It's
look.
kind of blurry.
Yeah, let's take a look. That's
Check
pretty
it
cool.
out.
I seen that. Okay. So, I mean, I guess I never really thought about it until you actually brought it up or never even considered looking into it.
Yeah.
But I know that it's tough. Whenever you start your business or starting any business, it's going to be very tough. Are we highly regulated? Is taxes high? I think we are. But I think, again, if you know how to navigate your business, if you know how to scale your business, taxes could be whatever they have to be. You just got to continue to focus on just growing your business. And that's where a lot of these companies, everybody wants to be upset that taxes are higher. But, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these corporations are making a ton of cash. So who really cares? I mean, ultimately, we're the middle class. Majority of the middle class, have to worry about other things that are not as significant of those corporations having to pay higher taxes. They might say, well, those higher taxes are getting passed on to the consumer. But consumer has to be more conscious about how they're spending their money. If we manage our financials a little bit better, then, you slowly, surely you'll start to improve over time. And so, for example, like when you're purchasing a house, the bank will allow you to use up to 50% of your income to pay for your home and all of your monthly obligations. But that's the bank's requirement. You want to be able to set aside your personal limit where you're like, okay, I don't want it to exceed 40% of my income. I don't want it to exceed 35% of my income. And you won't feel the squeeze as much. You start managing your money. You're going to have, a good work-life balance is what I always tell the clients is like, just because the bank says you can buy an $800,000 property, don't go buy that $800,000 property. And some might say, well, that's the opposite of what you should be doing because you're getting compensated based on volume and whatnot. But the reality is that I want clients to have a nice balance in life. You want to be able to pay for your home. You have a little one. I have a little one. So I think about those things. When I'm sitting there on a Saturday afternoon meeting with the clients and I know that they have a family as well, it's like there's more things than just the home. You don't want to be home broke or house broke. You want to be able to have a nice balance to pay your home, go to work, and enjoy all the other things in life. Travel, go to your kid's soccer game, whatever you got lined up for the weekend. So if we start to manage our finances better and be more disciplined, then, California can be a very expensive place to be, but it's also a beautiful place to be.
Oh yeah.
We have great, especially here in Ventura County, we have phenomenal weather. Been to other cities and the traffic is horrible compared to where we are now. We're kind of up there now, it gets pretty congested, but I think that we have a really good quality of life, even though things are really expensive compared to what other places might be. Just my personal experience is that I think we're fortunate to be here. It's a great state.
Yeah, I mean, despite all the cons to living in California, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. It's really great. I mean, not that I've never experienced living out of state.
Exploring, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Expanding out
I've never
out of the state.
experienced something like that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I feel like I wouldn't want to live anywhere but California.
California.
California's great.
I think we have a very unique place to be. There is a lot of opportunities. I think we have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
From even if you don't have your own business, if you're just employed here in California, you're going to be doing great. But it always goes back to like just managing your money right. If you're managing your money right and not overextending yourself, then you're going to have a much better quality of life.
Yeah.
But if you're maxing everything out, then that's going to put a lot more pressure on you.
Yeah, it gets
yeah.
tough.
What I tell the clients is, ideally you want to pay off your home in 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, you don't.
Regardless if it says it's for a 30-year.
Well, even if the bank tells you can finance it for 30 years, the thing is that when you get approved for a loan, they're going to tell you for 30 years and half of your income, 50%, right, of that income. But that's 50% of your gross income. That's not 50% of your net income, which you see the bottom number on your paycheck.
Right.
So if you really do the numbers, if it was on that net income, you'd probably be about 70% of your income.
Mm-hmm.
So if you max out your budget and you're paying 70% of your net income on your home, you're really going to take 30 years to pay off the house.
Yeah, yeah.
So if the bank tells you qualify for this amount and you can go up to 50%, you know, if you get qualified for 800, go buy the $500,000 property.
It makes sense, yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to be on that cycle for the next 30 years, and that's not healthy either. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be like, shoot, I got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to do all this. I mean, it's rough because, you know, the higher price point home is going to be the beautiful home and the ideal neighborhood location that you want to be in. But then I guess you kind of have to make a sacrifice. You want to have that beautiful home in the best location that you want it to be in, and you're going to have to pay it off the next 30 years. Or do you want to kind of settle with something a little bit less expensive, be able to pay it off in 10 years? And then what happens? What do you do those other remaining 20 years? You can travel. You can, you know, the remaining 20 years, you can travel. You can go back to school. You can start your own business. You can do so many other things without just being on that consistent cycle. I'm not saying that if you go into a 30-year mortgage, you're not going to be able to do that. But the odds are that, you know, you're going to have, if you buy something that's a lot less expensive, and you're able to pay it off, make a hard sacrifice for those 10 years to pay it off, then the other remaining 20 years, instead of paying money to the bank, it's just money that you either don't have to come up with, or you can spend doing all these other things and enjoying life.
I love the answer.
As things go boom, 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 things go by super fast, bro. Things move fast, quickly.
Yeah. Let me get into this other topic. I love your answer, by the way. It's really great.
I tell the clients all the time, and they're like, "You're crazy," but I'm like, "Well, you know, you gotta have control in life. You gotta, you know, you want to take control. You don't. So with I love and I hate what I do, because if we put someone into a 30-year mortgage, then that means that they're locked in and they owe the bank for the next 30 years, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, they could sell their home or, you know, whatever. But if you do make that commitment, that means that for the next 30 years. So if you're 30, I'm 31 today. So if I go buy another house today and I'm gonna mortgage for 30 years, that means by the time I'm 61, I won't finish paying off the house. If I max myself out, right? If I'm maxed out 50% of my gross income, not even my net income, the gross income. So before the money hits in the bank, they're doing the calculation based on that. And that's not a good thing. It's not healthy for anyone. Yeah. So I always try to go something a little bit less expensive. You know, work out better in the long run.
Let me show you this this TikTok. This guy was showing how to cut the time to pay off your mortgage. Yeah. And I wanna see what you think, if it's correct what he's saying. Yeah. If it makes sense. Right. Here, let me show you. Let's see. Okay. Oops. Go ahead and press play.
Oh, let's take a look here. TikTok.
Okay. I'll show you guys on breaking down how to pay your mortgage off early. Between TikTok and Instagram and probably even Facebook too, this video probably got over, 400,000 views. So people kept on asking me to link all the parts of the video together. So here you go. Hope you guys enjoy.
All right. On that, you're going to have your monthly payment, right? And let's just say your monthly payment is $1,000 a month. It doesn't have to equate to the numbers. I'm just giving an example here. Can you see? Okay.
No, I can't see.
Okay. Why don't you slide that further over? Yeah. Okay. So let's just say your mortgage is $1,000, and I just use these figures because it's easy math. Yeah. Okay, and I don't have to think about it. And let's just see that your mortgage is a 30-year mortgage, which is a big rip-off on its own.
He says a big rip-off on its own for a 30-year mortgage. That's what I'm telling you.
Right. So let's just say that you start your mortgage, say in September. Why September? Because next month is September. Okay, so you got September, then October, then November, then December, then February. No, January. I'm trying to get ahead of myself here. January, then February, then March, then April, May, and so on down the line, right?
For 12 months.
Yeah. So your mortgage payment is right $1,000 a month, right? So when you close, you should always ask for your amortization schedule, so you know exactly how much you're paying.
Pause it right there.
More amortization.
What is that?
It's the schedule to pay off the principal balance after 30 years, if it's a 30-year mortgage. So you'll get a schedule that's going to say every month when you send in your payment, this amount is going to go towards the principal and this amount is going to go towards the interest.
Okay.
So when you make your payment for your home, it doesn't say, for example, if the payment of the house every month is scheduled for the beginning of the month and it's $1,000 every month, it doesn't mean that $900 are going towards the principal and $100 going to the interest. Usually what happens is because the balance is higher at the beginning of your mortgage, you're going to have more money going towards the interest and less money going towards the principal.
Okay.
So it takes about 15 years until that switches to the other side, where every time you send in your payment, more money is going to go towards the principal and less starts going to the interest over the years. But that takes about 15 years. So it's a schedule that shows you where over time you start paying a little bit less interest per month and more of it starts to go towards the principal. So that would be the amortization schedule that you would see on there, and end up locking up, bro. Love the pig, by the way. Is that no?
So let me explain. So that
Okay.
pig is funny. We took our son to really quick. We took our son to the pumpkin patch a couple years ago.
Okay.
This pig was just laying down like peacefully, dude, just sleeping, and I just thought it was so funny. I put it on my wallpaper whenever
That's
I'm
cool.
having a bad day.
Just check out the pig
yeah.
laying out, relaxing, have a good time. Okay, so we're on amortization schedule. Let's see.
Is an agreement, right? That you're going to pay X amount of dollars a month, and based on the interest, whatever it is, let's just say your interest is, say, doesn't matter. Let's just say it's 8%. Okay, you know. Now, if your payment is $1,000 the first month, right? Part of it is going to go to interest, right? And part of it is going to go to principal, right? Okay, so if it's $1,000 a month, you guys are realtors. How much is going to go that first month to interest, and how much is going to go to principal?
Like 99%.
You're right.
Right, pay down $20.
So you right.
Right. So let's just say out of that first month payment, your interest was $900, say, and $80, and only $20 was principal. Which means out of this $50,000, it's much of anything, right?
Right.
Okay. So now you paid that month. So is there a payment due next month?
Yeah.
Of course, there's a payment due every month, right?
Right.
So that next payment once again is $1,000, right? So how much is your interest?
70.
Right. No, it's going to be more like 978 or something like that, and so forth down the line, right? So now, if you look at these interest payments and you look at these mortgage payments, is basically what you're doing is that for that month of September, you borrowed $20, and they charged you $980 for that $20. But it is. It's the truth, right? Yeah, because basically all you're doing is making 30-day loans. This is like juice money that you're paying. This is supposed to be illegal in any sort, you know? It's like, so basically you borrowed $20 that month, and they charge you $980 for interest. So is there anyone at the table who wants me to give them $20 and next month give me back $980? What would you say about me when I get up to go to the bathroom? You wouldn't be that
That
nice.
makes sense to you?
Well, when you think about it that way, but it's not $20 a month. I mean, it depends on the loan balance that you're financing, right?
So now,
But the calculation, it goes Usually it's
Let's
about
say I give
50-50.
it
It won't go the whole
no
amount,
numbers
but it'll
payment.
be depending
Now
on
watch
the total
this.
balance that the
So
clients
no
are
numbers
financing.
payment is still $1,000, right?
So one of the things that you want to do when you do have your mortgage is you want to send in a little bit extra payment per month, but you want to send it to the principal so you can start reducing the principal balance because you're getting charged interest on the actual balance. So even though you have an amortization schedule that'll tell you after 30 years, if you pay this amount per month every month for the next 30 years, that's the schedule that tells you eventually you'll get it down to zero.
Okay.
But what you want to do is you want to send in your payment and then send in an additional payment, but to reduce the principal balance.
Right. Right.
Because you're paying every month, you're going to pay interest on the balance that you owe.
Right.
So even though you have that schedule that says you can pay it off in 30 years, but that's only if you stay on that schedule.
I see.
So every month you start sending in, I don't know, maybe an extra $2,000 to start reducing the principal. And let's just say that the interest rate is 5%, then you're getting charged 5% on that newer lower balance, right? But if you maintain that high balance and you're always getting paid, or you're always having to pay the 5%, then you're going to go 5% on that higher balance, which means over the next 30 years you're going to end up paying more interest.
Okay, that makes sense.
So ideally, when you do have your mortgage, you want to have that extra money to send in to go towards the principal reduction. So even if the clients get into a 30-year mortgage, it doesn't mean that they have to take all 30 years to pay it off. They can send an additional amount, but they want to send it into the principal of the mortgage in order to reduce it. So what happens is if you finance a $500,000 property, and let's just say that the rate is about 4%, after 30 years between the principal interest, you're probably ending up to pay about $1 million
for a house that
for a
you bought?
$500,000 loan.
Really?
Yeah, because you're paying, not only are you paying the balance, but let's say you're paying 4% interest on that balance. After 30 years of sending in that payment, between the principal and the interest adds up to be almost $1 million. That doesn't include the property taxes, and it doesn't include the insurance for the home, which is more money in addition to that.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Look, if you're going to buy a $500,000 home, and after 30 years, that's going to add up to be $1 million. That's not just $1 million. Remember, to write a check for $1 million, you have to have gotten taxed on that money, which is, if you're getting taxed 30% or 25%, you're really paying that home. If you're going to pay off that $1 million loan, it's more like paying off 1.25 after all those taxes, right? You have to make a lot of money to pay off a $500,000 home over the next 30 years.
Wow.
But one of the nice things is that your income increases over time. So as long as you have a fixed interest rate and a fixed mortgage, your payment it'll remain the same, but your income over the years will continue to increase. Sometimes certain industries grow a little bit faster, so you're able to, that payment that you have today in 10 years, it might not be as bad as it was 10 years ago.
Right. So I'll take that from you.
Yeah.
So his what he showed, do you think that's true? What you can do to cut the time?
Yes, it is, but the numbers aren't 100% right, because you need to be able to look at what was the interest rate, what was the balance, what period of time that was scheduled to amortize. But I mean, you're borrowing money, but then see what he doesn't show on that portion is that, when you get closer to the amortization schedule, halfway through, that's where the balance of more starts going towards the principal and less starts going towards the interest. But that's because now you're starting here, right? And over the years, you're starting to reduce the balance on your home, and when you start reducing the balance of the home, more starts going towards the principal.
Right.
So it's an adjustment over the years. So initially, because you're paying the interest on the total balance, and if it started at $500,000, that's the total balance, and you're paying 4% interest, it's going to end up being a little bit more towards the interest and less money going towards the principal reduction.
Okay.
But over about 15 years, it's when it started adjusting, where more money starts going towards the principal and less money starts going towards the interest.
Right.
And that's how eventually the balance gets reduced to zero.
I see.
But it's not preset. So any of the mortgages, there's no well, I guess you got to make sure that you're not getting into a mortgage that has a prepayment penalty. But you can get a 30-year loan, and as long as it doesn't have a prepayment penalty, you can pay it off in 5 years, 10 years, as long as you're sending in your payment directly into the principal.
Perfect. Okay. So, on top of that, I did a little bit of research.
Okay.
And according to nerdwallet.com, I went in and checked what interest rates look like for a mortgage, right?
Yep.
You could fact check me. This was last night.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So, this is another source, Zillow. According to Zillow,
Yeah, Zillow's on top of it.
they said for the average Ventura County home value is at $826,930. So with that number, I went to Nerd Wallet and I used their calculator.
Okay.
But I wrote it down.
Okay.
Check it out. So assuming 800K
Okay.
average Ventura County home value,
20% down,
20% down.
which is $160,000.
If it assume it's a first time home buyer.
Oh, right. So $800,000 sales price. Was that 20% down, or you said FHA?
FHA.
Okay. So FHA, I don't know.
Well, you know
Okay.
what? I put that down, but
Okay.
for the calculator, it's 20%.
20% down, so it's probably conventional. Okay,
Okay.
so we're $800,000 sales price, 20% down, which is $160,000 in down payment.
Credit score, if it matters, 700 to 719.
Okay,
It showed as a 30-year fixed,
Uh-huh.
8.882%.
8.882%.
Yes.
That might be a little bit high. It's probably about 1%. It's probably about 1% less than that
Yeah.
amount. So if it was Zillow or another platform, might have been a little bit higher than what the mortgage rate is actually.
Okay. And I looked and I thought 8% seems a little too high. And I looked recently. This came on the news recently. I'm sure you've
Okay.
seen
Yeah.
where interest rates are at an
They
all-time
fluctuate
high.
all-time high. Yeah.
I compared it to what it was in 2020,
Uh-huh.
just for the fuck of it, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It shows 30-year fixed 2.77% in 2021,
Yeah.
which I'm like, damn.
Yeah,
What was I
it
doing in
was-
2021?
Yeah, it was pretty sweet in 2020. 2020, 21, and even a little bit of 22 was still pretty crazy.
So COVID, right?
Yeah, peak of COVID.
Was business going smooth? Was it booming? Was it crazy?
Goes back to its business expansion, contraction over time. The rates in 2020 got to, I mean, one of the lowest one I ended up doing was like 2.125%. But if you would have gone back 12 months prior to that, which was the peak of COVID, sometime around March, April, 12 months prior to that, in 2019, the rates would have been somewhere around 4%, right? So, and then that was in 2019, and 2018, the rates were around 5 or 6%. So they were already slightly working their way down, but then when COVID kicked in, they just completely dropped.
Okay.
And definitely, business was definitely booming, not only for the real estate industry, but just about any industry in general. Because the cost of borrowing money was ridiculously cheap. Everybody was able to obtain a loan, whether they went to their bank and they got a line of credit, or maybe they refinanced their house, they took some money out, and then what they decided to do with that money was either start a business, make some home improvements, right? So that you have, like if you have a roofing company and you have somebody who's pulling out, I don't know, $100,000 from their home and they want to do renovations and stuff. So it's spread all across all sorts of different industries.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you have more families, if the roofing company is making more money, then you have the people that are working for the roofing company and they're taking that money and they're going out to restaurants to eat or traveling. It just spread all over. I mean, the money was moving a lot faster. And that's the intention with the interest rates. When the economy slows down, they want to have the lower interest rates to stimulate the economy, to encourage people to take out loans, to borrow money, and get things moving forward for the economy. When the economy is running too hot, they want to slow it down, so they start increasing the interest rates, which is where we're at today.
Yeah.
But even with the rates being as high as they are, today, the economy is still going very strong, and it could probably be because there's still a lot of COVID money left behind. Between all of the money was being deposited into everybody's account, the people that end up refinancing, taking money out, there's just so much money still sitting in families' bank accounts, and it'll take some time to work its way through. But I'd say that we're kind of in that stage now where the consumer is starting to feel the pinch.
Right.
Between gas prices almost being double the price that they were then at the time as well. Interest rates being double, housing costs is through the roof. So, I mean, those rates are definitely working their way into the economy.
Yeah.
They're forecasting that sometime in the second half of 2024 is when they'll maybe start adjusting the rates to come down a little bit.
Okay.
But for now, they're going to maintain them within this range to keep inflation from continuing to rise and getting out of control.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So using the numbers that I gave you,
Yeah.
this is the important question that I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Using today's numbers for someone starting from zero,
Yeah.
meaning no money, bad or zero credit.
Yeah.
What does the timeline look like for someone like that to
To afford an $800,000 property?
yeah. Let's assume that they have a stable job.
A stable job. It's all about planning, because you can buy a house. I mean, you don't have to go for the full 20% down on $800,000 sales price. But it's all about planning. I shared with you my personal story. It took me about 2 years of planning to actually purchase then at the time, and that was at the peak of my budget. But it took me 2 years of planning. And sometimes we have clients that also take that amount of time, or clients that have already been on the right track where, they have their work, they have a little bit of savings, but it's just having that comfort to be able to take on that responsibility for that mortgage. But the nice thing is that there's all sorts of different industries today where you can make a lot of money. And every single industry, there's somewhere where you can make six figures. And it's kind of tough, but sometimes it makes it easier when you have a partner. Like if you're making 100 large and then your partner's making 100 large, then together you're making $200,000. So in order to absorb a $5,000 or a $6,000 mortgage payment, it's like, it'll work out. It's not too bad, right? As long as you're being disciplined with everything else. But if for anyone wanting to purchase within that price point, is usually clients that already have a little bit longer with their credit established, their employer is a little bit more established in order to be afford that price point.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we have a lot of families that are coming in from from Santa Barbara County and from LA County. And, the price point out there is like 1.2 over $1 million. So when they come in here and they see the houses at $750,000, they're like, man, that's a freaking steal. Keep in mind, we have really good air quality, and traffic isn't bad, and the weather's great.
Yeah.
So when they see the houses here for $750,000, they're like, oh shoot, man, that's a steal. And a lot of our community is being pushed out of Ventura County and having to buy Bakersfield, Palmdale, Lancaster, where the houses are still 400, 500, some even 300, and that's a lot more accessible. So, I think about where my family started out. We were from Santa Barbara, and my parents ended up buying here in Oxnard because the houses were less expensive and, worked out good, right? And now we have clients that are from here having to relocate and move elsewhere because it's just not accessible for them. But the problem is that there's nothing that's changing. There's no more inventory being built at a fast enough pace in order to make these house prices more affordable. And there's less families that are willing to sell in today's market because probably half of them, if not more, of the homes that are out there right now with a mortgage have a 3 or 4% interest rate. So there's no incentive for them to sell and be like, okay, I'm going to get out of this house and move into a new home, right?
Made like that.
Plus, houses have appreciated at a ridiculous amount since 2020. I mean, if you look at houses that were selling in 2020, they were selling, if there was a $400,000 property in Oxnard that was selling before in 2020 for that amount, today you might be selling for $575,000, $600,000. So there's no incentive for them to move out and get out of the house, even if it's not in their dream location or their dream or ideal home. They're like, well, we have a nice piece of land. It's a home, and our payment is really low, and the house has gone up significantly in value. So there's really no incentive for them to say, like, hey, I'm going to get out of here, sell, and move into a higher sales price and get into a higher interest rate. I have to pay a higher property tax based on that sales price. So because there's no incentive to do that, and a lot of the consumers and families today have a lot more information available to them than the previous generation, where getting information and would be misled in some ways to take decisions that wouldn't make sense for them financially over the long term. So that's definitely a challenge for a lot of families, but that also goes into, you have to be more disciplined if you want to eventually be able to acquire your property. You have to, work your way up in business or your career. You have to be disciplined with your personal obligations. If you're buying, you mentioned you're buying a car and things like that when you were a lot younger. So you want to put all of those things that are very tempting, and you got to be disciplined. So just, it's still doable. There's a lot of families that are still doing it, but
So a family, let's say a family with purchasing power, but they tell you, Emilio, I don't like the interest rates right now.
Yeah.
They're too high for me.
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
Well, we don't forecast the rates going higher than where we are today unless inflation continues to get out of control. And to be honest, the economists, the analysts, the people that specialize in reading where the economy is today, had anticipated that the Feds were going to start cutting the interest rate towards the end of the year, this year, right? And it's been the opposite. The Federal Reserve just continues to increase the interest rates because the economy is just too strong. Things are still moving pretty good. So they don't forecast that they're going to start cutting. Now they've pushed it back. They said, hey, at the end of the year, they're going to start cutting interest rates. They're like, well, maybe in the second half of 2024, they'll start cutting the interest rates. So this is a new reality where the rates are today. And if we look historically, rates have been 16, 17, 18, 20% in the past, way back, some long time back. But even at 7.25%, they're still okay. It's really expensive to get into the home.
Yeah.
But we do anticipate that the rates are going to eventually decline or get into a lower environment. So then the clients could eventually refinance and get into a lower interest rate. See, when you buy your house, you buy the house based on that fixed sales price. In 2 years, you can't go back to the seller of the house and tell them, hey, I want to renegotiate the sales price of this house. Can you give it to me for $400 instead of the $500? But what you can do is, if in 12 months the interest rates go lower, you could always go back to the bank and renegotiate that interest rate, which would be your refinancing. So you can always fix that in the future, but the sales price you can't fix. And if you look at the history over the years, house prices just continue to steadily increase year over year over year. So if you want to wait 12 months for those interest rates to come down, they probably will, but then your house price is going to increase over time. And when the interest rates go down, asset prices tend to increase, go up in value. So, because now it's going to cost you less to finance the house. So now you can tell the seller of that $700,000 property, well, I'll offer you $725 if the other person was offering you $700, right? So now you're going to finance a higher balance. So ideally what you want to do is, it's unfortunate, but the rates are higher. You want to try to secure your property sooner than later, because then when the rates go down, everybody that was waiting for those rates to go down is just start flooding in and saying, hey, now I want to be. Yeah, we had that through the peak of COVID, 2020, 21. You had like 15, 16 offers that were going out on a single house, and people were bidding up the price on those homes. So I remember one client ended up going $50,000 over whatever the list price was on a house. But it wasn't that much because the rates were so low that it didn't have a big impact on their monthly payment. They're like, okay, we can do it, but we want the house. And they got tired of submitting offers. They're like sending out their offers, and everybody kept outbidding them. So they're like, well, you know what, just let's see what happens. And they ended up, it's not a bad deal. The houses are probably worth a lot more today than they were then. Yeah, they overpaid when they bid, but to have to go back and if you had to wait to do it today, now you got higher interest rates and the sales price of the houses are a lot higher.
Yeah.
So they worked out a pretty good deal for them.
I hear a saying a lot from like real estate agents. They say marry the house, date the interest rate.
Yeah, date their interest rate. Yeah,
date the interest rate.
Well,
and I think that's a cool saying.
Yeah.
I think that kind of relieves someone like a buyer.
Yeah.
Kind of relieves them from the stress and the pressure from these high
interest rates.
You
know? I think one of the other things that kind of made it unique over the years. Okay, we'll be here. We're not going anywhere. Well, maybe in a minute. So the interest rates you know what, one of the things that has changed a lot is that now everybody can kind of work remotely. So when you're able to work remotely, now everybody's like, well, we have clients from LA, and they're like, well, I'm gonna go out and buy your Bakersfield. It's like $300,000. They're taking their LA salary and going to live into Bakersfield community, which is a lot less. So it helps out the economy as well in Bakersfield, because now you have somebody with an LA salary that works remotely, has a big income, goes in, they buy their home, and now they're spending that money in that community there, right? So it also helps build up. So you also kind of have to be aware of different pockets that are eventually starting to improve and grow, because that's also a good place to start investing. Even though it sounds like sacrifice, you know, it can be extreme, the weather, but you know, then you have to consider what other option I have if I don't take that approach.
Yeah, man. Recently, we went to my cuñada's. She rented out an Airbnb.
Okay, nice.
In Indio, California.
Okay,
I have some family out there.
Yeah.
Shout out them.
Yeah.
If you're watching.
Yeah.
Man, the house was so beautiful.
Yeah.
But what's crazy to me is that not to talk bad about.
Are you gonna do India like that? No.
Have you been out there?
No.
Dude, there's like, it's a desert, dude.
It's
like,
a desert. Yeah.
There's not much work out there, but what I'm thinking, like, dude, like, who has the money to like afford something like this?
Yeah.
The house was a beautiful. It wasn't 2-story.
What was the price point? Or no? You said it's a desert. No.
I can't remember, but
Okay.
the point is, dude, the house was amazing. Like,
Yeah.
it had everything you wanted, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, the thing is, what trips me out is just, it was the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, I know the Kardashians go there for their
cool.
vacations. They go to Palm Springs or whatever.
Okay.
And it was just mind blowing to me, you know, where you could really turn something into nothing. But, I'm sorry, I said that the wrong way. I turned nothing into something.
Yeah.
But you really need to have purchasing power to do these sort of things.
To do those type of things. Well, a lot of it really, I mean, yes, there's people that start their own business and they do really well, and then they amass this really great wealth. But then there's also a lot of people that kind of somewhat in a way inherit their money. And, you know, like, for example, when I bought my house, the sales price, and this was back in 2016, the sales price was $525,000.
Yeah.
And then my neighbor came over, knocked, and he's like, hey man, congratulations. He's like, I was actually bidding against you to buy this house. I wanted to buy the house. And he owned the house next door. He's like, yeah, my neighbor right next door. And he's like, yeah. He's like, the house that I live in right now, I inherited that house. Okay. And he says, the house next to that one, I ended up purchasing it. Wow. And now he's trying to outbid me to buy my house, right? And so I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm 24 years old. I'm starting off with a $500,000 debt. The neighbor next door inherited his house. So I got to work to get out of the $500,000 hole while the neighbor already inherited that property, right? The other thing is that his property taxes are a lot less than my property taxes. Even though our houses sit right next to each other in the same lot, the county does the taxes based on the sales price. So if they bought their home for $200,000 or $270,000, their tax rate is based on those $270,000. My new tax rate is based on the $500,000, right? So my taxes are more. I'm in a $500,000 hole. His situation is unique. He's off to a great start, right? But then there's people that are on a much larger scale, inheriting multiple properties and whatnot. So, I mean, there's different ways to go about things.
I mean, but to be 24 and have that purchasing power, that's big time, dude. Congratulations. That's
it was pretty sweet, man. It was pretty sweet we were kids at the time. And I remember when I went through it, because I didn't do the loan, I didn't do the loan for myself. I had a real estate agent and a loan officer at that time, because I was still with my business. I didn't transition out until afterwards. But I remember I reached out to my real estate agent, and I was too young still then at the time, because I was doing really good financially. But I remember I didn't ask him what the payment was. I didn't ask him what the interest rate was. I didn't ask him how much money I needed to cash to close, because I was doing really good in business. was just really eager to buy a house. I'd been planning for it for like 2 years. I thought I knew what I was doing. It was completely different when you get into it, right? But I told him just max me out. I was doing really good in business. I was like, give me the best, highest number that I qualify for, and then we'll start shopping based on that price point. And I didn't know what my mortgage payment was gonna be until like a week before close of escrow, and that's not a good thing. When you get into the process of buying a house, you want to know how much your payment is gonna be, how much money is gonna be out of pocket from start to finish, right? But I can't complain because it worked. It worked out to be a great investment.
But shouldn't the real estate agent, the loan officer, isn't
Yeah.
their job?
To guide you.
Yeah,
And
isn't their job
yeah,
to guide you?
and I would ask. I was like, "Hey, what's my payment gonna come out to be?" "Oh, don't worry about it. You know, it's gonna
What?
we're gonna adjust the numbers and everything." I went back and look. Everything is great. The way everything was structured.
Okay.
But I was kind of flying blind because I didn't know, and I didn't even ask and complain because I was doing really good in business. I was like, I don't even care, man. I just want the house.
But for a loan officer to tell you, "Oh, don't worry about it,"
Yeah.
Okay.
My total cash to close at the close of escrow, I didn't know how much I had to come in with out of pocket until I was actually finally signing with the notary the final loan documents.
yeah.
And I should have known initially within 3 days of doing my application. They disclose all this information to you and kind of guide you through everything. But
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. I look back and I think, man, that was really unprofessional. But at the same time, I think about it and I was like, it ended up to be a great investment. It was great. So it worked out really good for me.
Yeah. I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
Just to end this podcast, man, you're doing great. It's
Far
amazing.
away. Well, I hope so, man. It's my first time, but like I said, I was like, I gotta show up for episode 15, and
Hey, dude, you've been pouring out so much value. I already know everybody's gonna like it.
and everything. I'm just shooting straight, man. I mean, I want to be honest, and I don't know. Like I said, I have had a unique ride over the years where I'm like, there's something there. I don't know.
Okay, first question. These questions. It's funny because I just typed out whatever.
Okay. Whatever flows.
Yeah. Whatever
Okay.
flew,
Cool.
You know. So I typed out, what do you love about your career and what do you not like?
What I love about it is that it's a very good feeling to be able to help out families, to be able to put them in a unique situation, knowing that it's going to be very beneficial for them financially over a long period of time. Sometimes initially you're looking at it and saying, man, that's kind of rough. They're going to have a high mortgage payment or they're getting themselves into this amount of debt. But investing in real estate is a great place to be. And if you think about it, sometimes the clients, they have their families, so they're going to be able to pass that on to their kids, and that's a great feeling. For a lot of families, they're first-time home buyers, so it's great to be able to be there present to experience that with them, because it's life-changing. It can really change your life when you get yourself into a fixed monthly payment, and naturally your income over the years is going to increase, so your quality of life is going to improve over the years. Fixed payment, salaries increase over time. You get an increase in your base pay, you get a promotion at work. So as long as you maintain that fixed payment and your income continues to increase, then there's a good probability that your quality of life is going to go up from there. Camera died. Are we good to still rolling, or
Yeah, we're good.
still good to roll? So that's what I really enjoy about what I do. I also love the flexibility that it comes with it. Like I don't have a preset schedule. I'm not in the office Monday through Friday 9 to 5 or have to be there a certain time. It's all about coordinating with the clients when the clients are available, and then I'll make myself available that time. If I can't meet with them then I'll just schedule for a later time with them. So the flexibility that it gives me, I get to go to my son's soccer practice on Monday and Wednesday. I go to practice in the evening with him. Tuesdays and Thursdays I go to boxing classes together with my little guy. He's 11 years old. So we go to boxing classes together during the week. I take him to a soccer practice, and then on the weekends I get to go watch him at soccer games on Saturday and Sunday. So that's a lot of flexibility to be there consistently for him, which is good because when he was a lot younger, I didn't have that time to spend with him.
Yeah.
So that's something I also really enjoy and love about the business industry that I'm in. Something that I don't like about it, what I don't like about it is that it gives me all the flexibility. Because if you're not disciplined to put yourself to work,
Yeah.
you can really go month to month without, getting to work. So
Yeah.
you really have to be disciplined. You really have to have that drive to get out there, work, and it's business. So you have to
Yeah.
build it from there. So
That's great. And a lot of it too is scheduling too. You gotta have a really nice, organized schedule.
I'd say, yeah, it's when I was peak of COVID, it was crazy, man. I had like appointments back to back. On a Friday I do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 appointments back
crazy.
to back.
Because I've been following you, right?
Yeah.
For the year.
Yeah.
Dude, I'd see you post like you post getting out of the office, bro.
Yeah.
It would be like 10
Yeah.
p.m., 9 p.m. I'm like, bro, this guy's still working.
Yeah.
This guy's crazy.
The clients will send me a message. Usually my appointments are in the weekend because that's when clients work Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of time in the evening or on the weekend. But usually I'd schedule, sometimes I have my appointments 6 or 7 o'clock, and those consultations, I like to be very thorough, get into detail and everything. Right. So they usually take about 2 hours and going back and forth with the clients.
Yeah.
So, you can and then by the time I'm done with the appointment, they're like, okay, I got to get all my paperwork put together and make sure that everything's structured correctly. So sometimes it can stretch out to that time. And I usually meet with the clients. They're like, hey, this is my time that I can work. I'm like, okay, I'll be there. It's cool.
And how do you keep yourself? I mean, you look like you're in shape.
Yeah.
You look like you take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how do you do it, dude?
How do I do it?
How do you do it?
Well, it goes back to having that flexibility with my schedule. So what I'll do is I'll drop off my little guy in the morning, and then I'll hit the gym in the morning. I try to do it four times out of the week where I'll go to the gym. And that's in the morning, but then in the evening I have my boxing classes with my son. So that'll be my second workout. So I'm working out like 6 days or 6 times throughout the week. But it hasn't always been that way. It's I'd realized when I hit 30, I'm 31 today, but when I hit 30, I was like, damn. Yeah, things ain't working out the way they were for, especially because I love to party, go out, have a good time. And so I really started noticing, when my clothes that I put on, my slacks and everything's fitted. So it's like, when I started noticing that it was tight around the waist, and I figured, okay, now I got to do something to change that. So I really, this last 12 months, I've been very dedicated to cutting down on alcohol consumption and going to the gym to be more physically. This last 12 months.
Not bad, dude. I'm going on, and I started in beginning of July, so I'm going. What is that?
This year?
This year.
Okay, so it's a couple months.
Yeah. I cut alcohol basically It's been good, man.
Yeah.
I feel like a big difference.
It's a big change.
Yeah.
I could probably do a handful of times of when I've drank this year, just because I was very committed and serious about cutting down. I identified that was very serious as far as how it was impacting my health and why my clothes wasn't fitting and everything. So I was like, okay, if instead of going out partying, I'm all freaking at the gym working out, and it feels great. It feels really good to start kind of taking away all of those years of just neglect on the body. Because while I was skinny, it wasn't skinny build. It was just skinny and just scrawny. Well, just a little muscle there, but but it was I was like, shit, man, I gotta get it together as you're getting older. And then the other thing is I want to be a good role model for my son. I want my son to see me working out, going to the gym, going to the boxing classes with him, and just making sure that he has good influence.
Yeah. And your son, he enjoys it I'm sure he enjoys it, right?
Yeah, we do. It's funny because when we go to the boxing classes, I'll pretend like, oh man, that was a killer workout and whatnot, and he'll go back home and tell my wife, it's like, he's just complaining. I was like, it wasn't that bad. So yeah, he enjoys it. He enjoys it. I enjoy it. We have a good time.
That's amazing, man. This is off topic. Did you watch the Canelo fight yesterday?
No, I didn't. I was on recovery mode yesterday the entire day, so
really?
I didn't.
So you're
I was just completely clocked out for the day.
Man.
Yeah, I was out partying on Friday night, so I didn't even. It was just completely disconnected from the world yesterday.
You were just trying to get back.
Yeah, I was just trying to freaking recover yesterday, but I didn't watch the fight. How did it end?
Canelo, he
Was-
won by decision.
What was it? What you expected, or were you thinking?
No, yeah, I mean, he's a master
Yeah,
at his craft.
just did
you
really
know?
well. Yeah,
He's
all of those years, it's pretty crazy. But I mean, all of the years that he's put in, the dedication to like you said, mastering his craft. Because I remember when when he boxed Mayweather, which is really what is like 15 years ago
yeah,
or something like that.
it was-
And he was still a little kid then at the
Yeah.
time, but you really see this guy get in the ring, the way he moves around and whatnot. He's really perfected his craft.
He just
He's-
makes
he's
it look
beast,
so easy.
beast.
Yeah, beast.
Yeah.
Makes it look so
Yeah.
easy.
So yeah, I'm glad that he won. I mean, he's dedicated his life to it and he's been
Yeah.
disciplined with it. So
Yeah.
you know.
You watch any soccer?
No,
No?
no. I not until my son started playing soccer when I actually started getting in.
Because that's what happened with my little brother.
Yeah.
And in middle school, well, he's still in middle school, but
Yeah.
maybe 6th grade is when he just, I don't know.
Just
he
had that stretch.
Boom.
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
almost as tall
That
as
was in
me.
middle school? During middle school or
He's in 8th grade right now.
okay.
And that's when, like,
He had
he's
a
like-
stretch.
He's
Yeah.
stretching. He's
Okay,
stretching. He's,
cool.
he's nonstop, dude. Like,
I didn't see I think until I went from junior high into high school that summer was when I actually saw like my stretch.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, so
but
was
it
a little
wasn't
late
like
for you, huh?
maybe a little late for me, and I was wondering. I was like, because he has his friends, and I can see his friends kind of went through a little stretch, and I'm like, man, what's going on with this guy? Because he's been kind of stayed at the same
Yeah,
height for
yeah.
now, and I'm like, is he gonna stay there?
Nah, give it. It's
Well,
gonna
like-
happen, dude. It's gonna
And so the doctor told me to. He's like, oh, it's good that you're keeping him like physically active and all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
because you know when he goes through his growth spurt, he's gonna have a nice stretch and
He's
it's
gonna
gonna
have a
be
nice
really
stretch.
built in. So I'm like,
Oh,
cool, yeah,
He's
that's
gonna
good.
be a beast.
Yeah,
He's
well,
gonna be
we'll
a
see. We'll
And
see.
especially if he likes boxing,
Yeah, yeah.
scary.
I do boxing because it's I don't know, it's just good skill to have and
Yeah, of course.
But they've always been told or I've been told that I should put him into like football, but like
Football.
tackle football.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, no, he's a big kid. He'd probably
Yeah.
fill into it. He'd probably do great, but I don't want to see my kid damaged. Like soccer is also dangerous, but not on the level that football is.
Oh.
Football is like you run a lot more risk
Yeah.
in the field out there. And same thing with boxing. It's like you don't want to head injuries or any of that stuff.
I think boxing is good for just self-defense. Take care
Yeah,
of
we
yourself.
have a really good coach. We've been going there for about 3 months now. They do boxing classes, and it's
really?
like for all different levels. So my son's 11 years old, and I'm 31 years old, and then there's people in there that are like in their, I won't say 60s. Yeah, they're in their 60s, but it's like very diverse, and it's like very family friendly. Where it's just like it's great community.
That's great.
So it's for all different levels,
Yeah.
but yeah, they really do teach you some really good skills, and it's
Great.
it's a great workout as well.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I already told my girl when my son's of age,
Yeah,
I do want to put him in some sort of like boxing,
some sport,
jiu-jitsu,
some self-defense, get
for-
some nice skills. Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. for
not
sure.
not because you wanted to have him go out there kick someone's ass, but you
No.
just want to be able to just have the basic skills of defending yourself.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
want him just to have those skills.
Yeah,
That's it. And obviously soccer. I want him to play soccer, baseball. Right now, I'm kind of catching him liking to throw the ball.
Yeah,
He's only 3, but
Okay,
you
yeah.
know, maybe I'll get him into baseball. Who knows?
Yeah.
I
I-
played soccer all my life.
he
so.
did. My little guy did karate. So he tried out karate. He tried out baseball. At a very early age, we got him into boxing as well, but he didn't like it. So soccer so far has been like the only one that he's like very passionate and dedicated to, and
That's
doesn't complain about his practices or anything.
That's good. That's good, man.
So I'm definitely enjoying this period of my life. We're just like doing that bonding time with my little guy, watching him grow up, and
Yeah.
Just,
It's beautiful, man.
just
It's
family.
beautiful. It
Family's
feels
good. Yeah.
It feels good. I think we're good. We're good.
We're
here.
ready to wrap up
Ready to go.
episode 15. Well,
Episode 15.
Appreciate you, JC. Thank you for reaching out, and I hope that you're able to continue to grow your business, and it's great. It's great
Yeah.
what you're doing here.
If you wanna share your socials,
You guys follow me on Oxnard Real Estate on Instagram.
there it is.
Yeah.
If
All right.
for any real estate information,
Real estate, or if you guys just want to shoot the shit and just send the DM, And once again, JC, appreciate you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Emilio.
Cool.
It was a pleasure having you. Bro.
Likewise, it's great to be here, bro.
Listo? Yeah.
Hopefully we got some good.
Oh man, perfect.